Okay, staff, this is the first podcast for our faculty meetings. Each month we will look at a different best practice. Then we will have you go into either a team member's classroom or a department member's classroom for 10 to 15 minutes and look at the best practice in action. And then we will reflect at our faculty meetings each month. The first podcast is about Conley's intellectual standards. The implementation of a coherent curriculum, effective lessons, and an abundant amounts of purposeful reading, writing, and talking should be our highest priority. This is from Mike Schmoker and his book Focus. The standards. Number 1 is to read to infer, interpret, and draw conclusions. 2 is to support arguments with evidence. 3 is to resolve conflicting views encountered in source documents. And 4 is to solve complex problems with no obvious answer. What are these? Well, these are what we want students to do when we are building learning tasks and our assessments. When do we use Conley's intellectual standards? We use them to design learning objectives. We use them to set purpose for reading, writing, and discussing. We can use them to check for understanding in the classroom. We use them to design questions for assessments, and we use them to build learning tasks for students. Why do we use them? We use them to engage students in higher level and critical thinking, to immerse students in an abundant amount of reading, writing, and talking, and to clarify and simplify what we want students to be able to do. Again, these are standards, not content standards, but skill-based standards. So we want to build these skills when we are developing our assessment questions, when we're developing our learning tasks in the classroom. And we do that by creating learning tasks around these standards. Here are some examples of some learning tasks or assessment questions that build these skills in students. After the War of 1812, did most Americans feel the war was a mistake or a success? Support your answer with reasons. Today, how has our opinion of that war changed? Again, support your answer. Another one. Please reread pages 1 through 3 and 91 and 92 where Esperanza listens to the heartbeat of the land. Write a well-written response that compares and contrasts the two experiences, then explains in detail what the heartbeat of the land symbolizes. You may use details from your book to support and give detail to your answer. Yet another example. You are a member of a trade committee in Ghana. It is your job to advise the king of Ghana about trade. The king has asked the committee to decide if silent barter should be used as a method of trade in his kingdom. You must take a position for or against silent barter. Here are some examples from science. Remember, these are examples that build the skills that are defined in Conley's intellectual standards. Compare and contrast the functions of the digestive and respiratory systems. The arguments for wind versus solar energy. The case for or against global warming. Explain or illustrate cellular structures and functions based on reading and lecture notes with original or personal observations, insights, and connections. Explain and illustrate essential similarities and differences between plant and animal cells. Read two opposing arguments on past or present issues or problem related to cells and cell research and annotate them. Take a position on this issue. Be sure to also refer to what you've learned on cells. Again, these could be used for building learning tasks in the classroom, or they could be used as assessment questions. English. Here's an example. Another example from English is make inference about a character or his or her development. Identify similarities and differences between two characters. Social studies. Make arguments for why you would prefer life as a Mayan or an Aztec, or as a U.S. or Canadian citizen with references to both using the textbooks and current publications. In mathematics, here are some skills and ways that we could use Conley's intellectual standards in mathematics. To argue for which solution to a problem is most complete and accurate. Argue two opposing articles about statistics. Make quantitative arguments to solve problems, identify implementations, or reach actionable conclusions. To read articles with quantitative arguments. We could have students write explanations and interpretations of calculations or quantitative arguments. An example, a prompt might be, I think the answer is this, and they explain why that is the answer. I think that because, again, they're explaining, and then I figured this out by, and they explain how they figured that out. Okay, these are examples of how we might build learning tasks using Conley's intellectual standards. Art and music, compare and contrast, or argue the merits of one artist or musician over another. These were all examples of ways, again, to build these skills that we have that we want students to know and be able to do. They are skill-based tasks. They could be used, again, like I said, to build your learning tasks in the classroom, and you could integrate technology in those tasks, so that not only are they building Conley's intellectual skills and standards, but they are also building technology skills. So as we move forward, you will want to schedule a time when you can go into another student or another teacher's classroom and look at their implementation of Conley's intellectual standards into their learning tasks or their assessment questions or checking for understanding. If you have any questions, please see one of the team leaders or myself, and we can answer those questions for you. Thank you.